14.15 has resulted in many new champions emerging as powerful solo queue options, while there have been a handful of picks who have fallen off as well. Aurora hotfix nerfs have also made their way to live servers, so we'll discuss how impactful the changes have landed. So in today's video, we'll be providing you guys with a complete update on all the new meta trends and a look at the solo queue tier list for every single role. And are you sick of losing games from bad teammates? Well, at SkillCapped, we turn your frustrating losses into satisfying wins. Take our brand new Season 14 courses that teach you the secrets to winning as top laner, jungler, mid laner, AD carry, and support. Then pair that with our other new courses on how to counter OP top and mid laners, master your jungle clears, or check out our new Bronze to Diamond series. We even have new Season 14 courses on macro, wave control, trading, settings and hotkeys, CSing, vision, mechanics, low elo mistakes, and the list goes on. Then head over to our Smurf commentaries. Simply select the champion you want to master and get guides from challenger experts teaching how to play your champion in the exact rank you're stuck in. You're even guaranteed to have all your questions answered by that very same challenger expert. Our service really does work. That's why we offer a rank up guarantee. If you don't rank up while actively using SkillCapped, you get your money back, no questions asked. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below right now to get the rank you've always dreamed of. So starting things off, up in the top lane, we noted in the pre-patch tier list that we didn't think the Aurora nerfs would really be enough to negatively influence her solo queue strength, and that has played out to a T. So much so that Riot has already had to go ahead and issue some hotfix nerfs that have actually been quite significant. Aurora has lost some base armor as it's gone down from 27 to 23. Passive percent health damage has been reduced from 4 to 2.5%. Q cooldown is up by 1 second at all ranks, while Q2 minion damage reduction has been increased from 50 to 75%. With the nerfs being live and looking at day-to-day analytics, the changes have resulted in about a 3% drop in win rate. Now, Aurora was definitely overperforming at the start of the patch though, even greater than our pre-patch expectations, so despite the nerfs, she's still going to be a solid solo queue pick. Top lane Aurora just does a phenomenal job at bullying melee tops who lack heavy mobility. Champs like Set, Aatrox, Nasus, Darius, and Garen have a very difficult time sticking onto Aurora as she has so much kiting strength and movement speed built into her kit. It's only top laners who have strong gap close ability that can quickly jump right on top of Aurora that she struggles against, like Irelia and Yone. So even with the nerfs going live, we're not actually going to be adjusting Aurora's tier list placement from where we had it in pre-patch because she was definitely performing better than A tier to start off the patch, but now that the nerfs have gone live, A tier is looking like a good fit. With one ranged top entering the meta, another exits, as top lane Twisted Fate is now pretty lackluster for solo queue. It was the indirect nerfs that hit him hard this patch, as Fleet losing power early on combined with Kraken and Shiv both getting nerfs have significantly reduced his strength. It's very likely we just see Twisted Fate completely disappear from the top lane meta within the coming patches, but we'll leave him on the tier list for now as one of the weaker C tier picks. So if we have a look at the top lane tier list, OP tier is going to consist of two champs, being Set and Volibear. One of the bigger winners up in top lane for this patch, who we already adjusted up into S tier during the pre-patch tier list, is Kennen. Players who rush Rocket Belt on Kennen have seen about a 1.5% spike in win rate for this patch due to the buff, so it has been quite significant. We noted in the pre-patch tier list that we anticipated for the Yone adjustments to land net positive, and that has been the case. Even with the nerfs to fleet footwork, Yone has seen a nice boost in power due to the Q damage buffs, and we'll be moving him up the top lane tier list for mid-patch. It's actually been pretty interesting to track Keystone Rune viability on Yone for this patch, because with Fleet getting nerfed, Conqueror is actually performing in the higher elos. We are only a few days into the patch, so we don't want to jump the gun and say that Conqueror is now Yone's best keystone, but from what we are seeing, it's looking a lot more appealing. In matchups against those tankier champions where you need those drawn-out fights to win, that's where the value from Conqueror is really going to shine through. One jungler in specific has turned out a big winner due to the item changes this patch, and that champ is Nunu. Nunu not only benefits from the Rocket Belt buffs, but Dark Harvest buffed is a win for him as well. The win rate of Rocket Belt on Nunu has jumped up by over 2% this patch, so if you like that more offensive style of Nunu, he's actually in a pretty good spot now. Having Nunu as a pocket pick that you can pull out when your support locks a melee engaged champ is now really good value. If your support is playing something like Leona, Braum, or Nautilus, locking Nunu and just spam ganking bot will net you a ton of kills and tilt the living daylight out of your opponents. We've had Nunu down on the jungle B tier for a while, but we see a move into A fitting with how much better he's been performing due to the indirect buffs. So this patch is pretty unimpactful in terms of changing the broader outlook of the jungle meta, so not much has shifted on the tier list. We're even going to be moving Shyvana back up into the OP tier for mid-patch because the nerfs have not hurt quite as much as expected. Shiv is definitely weaker now, but she was just so broken in 14.14 that the nerfs have now just brought her more in line with the other OP picks, being Lilia and Nocturne. Especially if you're plat or below, there's no better jungle to be spamming for solo queue than Shyvana. Besides Shyvana, Skarner was the only other jungler who was changed for this patch, and as expected, the buffs have been extremely underwhelming. With Skarner's sitting at around a 46% win rate, you'd think Riot would have gone a little more aggressive with buffing him up, but the changes have literally done nothing to increase his solo queue viability, and he remains in the C tier. Mid lane meta shifts have been much more prevalent than in the jungle for 14.15, as we've seen many champs gain in strength. Hands down, the most underrated mid lane champion that you can play for this patch is Neeko. Neeko has been completely forgotten about in solo queue, only being picked in about 1% of games, but her power is actually very high right now. Both of Neeko's core items being Rocket Belt and Storm Surge were buffed for this patch, which has been the driving factor for her rise. So if you're someone who likes getting ahead of the meta trends, we definitely think the priority on Neeko should eventually see an uptick in the coming patches, so look to take advantage of her while you can, as we're moving her into the S tier. For the first time in a while, the Wind brothers are actually sitting slightly above a 50% win rate in solo queue. We knew the Yone changes would result in him gaining strength for this patch, but we were more on the fence about the Yasuo adjustments. Reason being is because Yasuo lost indirect power this patch from the Kraken Slayer and Fleet nerfs, while Yone doesn't run Kraken, so he wasn't affected by that change. Even with the nerfs to Kraken and Fleet though, it looks like the direct buffs have outweighed both, and Yasuo is back in a very powerful spot for solo queue. So for the first time all season long, the S tier for mid lane is now going to feature both Yasuo and Yone, as they've taken big strides forward due to the 14.15 changes. Now, one mid lane champ we have to drop even further down the tier list for mid patch is Sylas. Even though Riot had the Sylas changes under the adjustments category in the patch notes, they were just flat out nerfs, and he lost a good chunk of power. Just a little under 2% win rate has been shaved off for this patch, which is quite significant, especially considering the changes were intended to be power neutral. There is one interesting build that has popped up for this patch which does look promising on Sylas, but it is still quite underplayed, and so it's difficult to say just how powerful it really is. The build consists of Rod of Ages with Rocket Belt and Cosmic Drive. You're stacking health items here, which helps to synergize with the change ride issued to Sylas W, to where the heal now scales off 5% of your bonus health. All in all though, Sylas is no longer a top tier mid due to the adjustments he received this patch, and we're dropping him down into the mid lane B tier. So if we have a look at the mid lane tier list, OP tier is going to be locked down by Vex and Naafiri. Aurora should have been in the OP tier prior to her hotfix nerfs, but now that the changes have gone live, it's looking like A tier is where she's going to level off at. It's always so difficult for us to accurately rate these new champions just due to how much their strength can swing in a short period of time, so don't look too much into the exact rating of Aurora. You could argue S tier for her even with the nerfs, and whether she's A or S tier, both are still great placements, so if you enjoy playing the champ, she's definitely worth climbing with in solo queue. As if Vex was not already a top tier solo queue mid, with more priority shifting towards Yasuo and Yone due to their changes, there is no better time to have Vex in your champion pool. Vex literally hard counters all three of the most played mids for this patch, being LeBlanc, Yone, and Yasuo. So if you've ever considered picking up the champion in the past but just never got around to it, there's no better time than now. We did see a few other mids change for this patch, but their adjustments have not led to any of them gaining or losing any significant strength. Akali, Cassiopeia, Irelia, and Zed were the four other mids adjusted for 14.15, and unlike Sylas, they have just remained very power neutral to where they were in 14.14, so we won't be adjusting their tier list placements. So it was really just Yone and Yasuo who actually ended up gaining strength out of all the mid laners that were directly changed for this patch. The ADC meta has aligned very similar to what we had laid out in the pre-patch tier list, so there's not much movement for mid-patch. The only change we're making is moving Jhin up into OP tier and moving Draven back into S. With Kraken and Shiv nerfed, it's given more strength to champs like Miss Fortune, Twitch, Draven, and Jhin, who do not rely on those items. Now with that being said, Jinx and Kai'Sa, who we dropped out of the OP tier, are really not that much worse off this patch. Kraken, Shiv, and Fleet nerfs did hurt a bit, but not to the extent to where the meta sees a drastic change. Jinx and Kai'Sa are still strong S tier options, so there's just a ton of variety that you can choose from now, as there are so many good S and OP tier picks. If there is one ADC that you should probably put higher priority on though, if your main goal is to climb the fastest, it is Miss Fortune. With her new meta build consisting of Bloodthirster Rush into Essence Reaver and Infinity Edge, it is so easy to be impactful with the pick. You deal a load of damage from R and your Q hits super hard as well. One support who is in need of a push up the tier list for mid-patch is Neeko. We honestly just forgot about Neeko entirely during the pre-patch tier list because she's so underplayed in solo queue as of late, but that should start to change as she has been arguably the biggest winner from the mage item buffs. Mid lane Neeko has definitely gained more power than support just because mid has a greater gold income, so you can take advantage of the item buffs more often. With that said, Rocket Belt is always the rush item on Neeko support, so she can take advantage of the buff in nearly every single game. Storm Surge is not as core on Neeko support as it is for mid lane, but you can still slot it in for select games where you're snowballing and have the gold income to purchase it. Overall though, Neeko support has gained a nice bit of strength for 14.15 and is being moved up into the support A tier. With Leona being the only support who is directly nerfed for this patch, the meta for the role has not shifted much for 14.15. OP tier has a slightly different look for mid-patch as we're promoting Seraphine up to join Poppy and Nami. We've covered the rise of Seraphine support in a few few of our previous videos, but if you missed those, the TLDR is that she's really good with Solstice Slay, along with a very heal-oriented build of Echoes of Helia and Moonstone. Leona did not end up losing very much power at all from her nerfs, so even though she's not the broken OP pick from previous patches, she's still a really good S tier support. So overall, very similar to the ADC role at the moment, as support does have a bunch of variety and there's no longer a certain class of champs that are just dominating. If you want to play an Enchanter, Seraphine, Nami, Milio, and Lulu are all extremely good options. For a melee engaged support, Leona remains a top tier pick, while Braum and Poppy are right up there with her. As for mage supports, Vel'Koz in specific has been really liking the recent Dark Harvest buffs, as the champ is now seeing a lot more success running Dark Harvest than Comet. The rune is actually now winning over 2% more than Comet in solo queue, so if you're running Dark Harvest on your Vel support, we definitely think he's the best mage for 14.15, and you'll find him in the S tier. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So there you have it guys, a complete look at the meta for every single role as we reach the midway point of the patch. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you back soon.